Hey guys, Katie here from Equestrian Movement, and today we're just going to talk about using the rule of three in practice, doing some troubleshooting with how it applies in real life. Um, Basically, the purpose of the rule of three is to be able to manage our relationships while we are having certain expectations of our horse that we can ride and train them, and just to keep them from going arena sour and sour on the aids. So the rule of three is kind of like a bit of an ego check, so that we try and stop on a positive note, feeling like we could have done more. And so this then is our positive reinforcement to our horse, so that we're encouraging them to be more willing. And so next time they're looking for those answers, and giving us better effort for our ask. It's really easy to get carried away, when you're having a good ride and everything is feeling awesome. You're like, ooh, this is good. Just go a little bit longer. Just ask for a little bit more, a little bit better. And it's normally when we say just that one more time that everything kind of falls apart with us and our horses. By that stage, our horse is getting tired, we're getting tired, so we're not being as effective with our riding, and our horse is struggling to apply its body to the exercise, and maybe struggling a little bit mentally with those repetitions. So the three is just a loose rule that you can apply just to make sure that you're not repeating the exercise to the point of exhaustion for both you and your horse. So one of the exercises that I do with my students so that they understand this is that I'm going to ask you to join in on this exercise, is to put your hand in the air. That's it. Put your hand in the air. Put your hand in the air. Go on, put your hand in the air. Hand in the air. Go on, hand up. Are you joining in with me? Put your hand in the air. Are you sick of me telling you to put your hand in the air? Yeah? So when I'm doing this with my students, they'll put their hand in the air and then they'll go, oh, okay, and maybe they'll reach a little higher, and they'll reach a little higher, and they'll reach higher again, and then they'll go, oh, and then they'll put their other hand up, and then they'll put both hands up, and then eventually they just go, you're really annoying me, and I'm not going to put my hands in the air anymore. So this is why, one of the reasons why we use the rule of three, is because we don't want to have to keep asking the horse to do the same thing to maintain what they've got. So when you're kicking to say trot, 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 they're already trotting. So you're going to be tuning them out to your aid. When you're kicking with your inside leg and saying bend, 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 there's only so much bend that your horse can actually give you. So when we're using this rule of three, we're asking our horse to do something, and then we're encouraging to maintain that for us until we ask for something different. So what we're doing is we're building up our horse's yeses. We're trying to avoid getting to an argument and having to push through the argument to get back to a yes. And this is what willingness is. When you say your horse is lacking willingness or needs to show more willingness, this willingness is saying yes to an exercise. Resistance is saying no to an exercise, or just grumbling about having to do the exercise. So what we're trying to do is build willingness, which is our horse being engaged and wanting to learn and wanting to participate in its training. And so we're building on our yeses. So initially this might mean that your training sessions are very short. If you've got a horse that has been bullied to work or made to work without a say, then you might just get one yes and then put them away and give them a big reward. And then the next time you'll get 2 yeses, 3 yeses, and then if you get 3 yeses, change the exercise. So we're building up how long we can keep our horse saying yes, which is essentially what we're talking about in our training trainability course. Is we're training our horses to learn, and we want to train them in a way that they're learning to react positively without arguing, and we're trying to develop their working brain. So how much effort does it take to actually get their head in the game and that they're focusing their effort into what they're doing, and then how long can you maintain that for? So the first time you get them applying themselves and in that working brain, that is the easiest time in your training session that you're going to have in to get them into that working brain, and the longest amount of time that they're going to be in that working brain. So if you don't stop on a positive note before they start resisting again, they've lost their focus, they've lost their willingness to cooperate, then it is harder each time you have to bring them back into the working brain, and the period of time that they can hold the working brain shortens. This is mental fatigue, right? So this is like you going to work in the morning, you have your coffee kind of gets you, woo, I can do this, let's take on the day, and gets you to apply yourself mentally. You've got a certain period of time where that's easy, and then you're getting distracted and you're like, okay, time for a coffee break, where are my biscuits? And so that's the period of time that you've been able to focus for. So that's what we're trying to do in our training trainability, is we're trying to encourage our horse to come into that working frame of mind and to hold it, see how long it holds it for, and then gradually over time we're building up the length of time that they can hold that concentration for. If you have a young horse, it's going to be shorter. If you have a green horse, it's going to be shorter. It's like kids going to school and building up how they learn and how long they can concentrate for. If you've got an educated horse or an older horse, then generally they should be able to hold their concentration for longer. But again, it just depends how much work they've had put into them to develop their brain to be able to concentrate for that long, and if they've had like a significant spell, like quite a few years out of work, you'll have to build up their working brain again. So the length of the training session, you don't want to go in and be like, okay, we need to do an hour of training. If your horse is getting to that 10-minute mark and you've lost that concentration, then you're just going to have the next 50 minutes of you and your horse fighting. You want to focus on the quality of the training session. If you can get 10 minutes of awesome yeses from your horse, then finish there and try not to push their buttons out to that hour mark. And so then the horse starts to dictate to you how long the training session should be for their level of concentration, and you gradually build on that over time. So how to use the rule of three. When don't you use it? So if you need to discipline your horse, so if they're pushing your buttons, challenging you, pushing your boundaries, you don't do 3 repetitions and then go, oh, I've done 3, I best stop. You've got to follow through until you get the cooperation, the behavior that you want, and then you stop for that. So for example, if you're doing your walk halt and your horse is like pushing into you, then you're going to do your walk halt until they are respectful of your personal space there, and then reward for that. So that's your positive reinforcement for the behavior that you want. If they are doing that walk halt really well, then you're not going to have 10 asks and say, all right, do it better, do it better, do it better. That's like that hand in the air exercise we're talking about. We want to try and stop on the 3 there, and whatever we got on that third one is our quality for the day. We can go and do, so when we talk about 3 asks, we do 3 asks change exercise. You can come back to it. So what that means is that you could do 3 walk up halts, and then you could move the shoulders around and then do 3 more walk up halts. So it just, if the exercise is going well, it doesn't mean you can't come back to it. It just means you have to change fairly quickly, because the release of pressure, the positive reinforcement for the exercise, is the exercise done in a way that the horse has tried. So another time when you wouldn't stick to the 3 yeses is if they're not getting the answer right. So if they're not answering with the correct answer and you stop the exercise, then you're going to be reinforcing whatever that answer is that they gave you. So an example of that would be if I was teaching rein back and they didn't step back, then I've asked 3 times, I better stop. That's not going to work there, because then you're reinforcing the fact that they don't have to step back. So you need to follow through on the ask to get the result. It may mean that when they don't get it, you stop for one correct answer. So if you've asked them, 4, 5, 6 times and they answer on the 7th, then you don't go, okay, I want 3 of those ones. You've got to stop for that one good answer, because then they go, oh, why did you stop asking me there? Why did you stop the exercise and I get what I wanted? So we're trying to get them to associate the behaviors that we want to the things that they want. And remembering the things they want is for us to release the pressure of the aid, release the exercise that we're doing, and release the training session. So if we get one good answer, then we're releasing the exercise. That's a big win for them. If it's something that we've been struggling with for the whole training session, we've been doing it for an hour, then we might even hop off, put them away and feed them, because that's a really big win for them. They're going to associate that behavior that they did to that cue, meaning that you hopped off and you fed them, which is what they really, really, really want. So it's a really strong association to that behavior. So another time where we wouldn't do 3 asks is if we're in a good flow. So sometimes our horses are, in that really good working frame of mind and showing a lot of willingness, and we're just kind of doing conditioning, exercising work. Sometimes I may push it out to 4 or 5 asks, just because it feels like it's not very challenging to them, and I want to build up a little bit of endurance and conditioning there before I do something that is a bit more challenging to them, so that I'm building up their fitness to do the more challenging thing. That happens further down the track in your training. So for example, if I'm doing some leg yields, I might do 5 or 6 instead of 3, because I know that the horse can do it. I know that they're willing, they're participating, they're enjoying the movement and the exercise, and I want to do a couple of extra runs before I start asking for canter, because I've got good flow in them. It's warming them up really nicely, they're working really sweetly, and they don't find the exercise hard, and they understand what I want. So we're not going to get any sort of negative behavior about it, and they're just enjoying the action. Sometimes, and in saying that, like in that good flow, sometimes you can just feel that they need to do a couple more asks. If the horse is engaging in the exercise and they're learning and they're asking questions, then we will repeat it to help them. The repetition is what gets them to understand what we're asking for. So if we've done 3 times and we're like, oh, I don't think they've quite got it yet, and they've not gone sour on it yet, I'm going to ask a couple more times just to really consolidate for them what the behavior is that I want. Sometimes we can do that as well. So an example of that I've done recently is one of the horses that I've got in work. I was working on my rein back under saddle, and the first 3 essentially that I did, I was doing it with treat training, and instead of he was doing like a step backwards, like a little bit of resistance, quite hesitant, and then when he took that single step, I'd give him a treat. And he's a heavy draft horse, so they typically think a little bit slower. They're not really looking for those answers, but he was pretty stoked about the treat. So first 3 or 4 reinbacks that I did with him, he was like, "Ooh, treat! Ooh, treat! Ooh, treat!" And he wasn't actually thinking about what he got the treat for. By about the 4th or the 5th time, he started to associate the treat with the rein back from the rein aids. So then I could feel him actually reacting to the aid the way that I was asking for him to react. And so then it ended up being 5 or 6. But in saying that, I was also interspersing it with other exercises. So I wasn't just doing halt, rein back. I was doing our 10-meter loop, in and out, halt, rein back, 10-meter loop, halt, rein back, 10-meter loop. So I was still breaking up the exercise, so it wasn't truly, 3 consistent aids one after the other, but it was more than 3 asks of the same exercise. So basically, what I want you to take away from this is that the rule of 3 is just a loose application of, to keep your own ego in check and to keep yourself in check, that you will pull yourself up. If you've asked your horse to do something 3 times, have they done it willingly, and then stop for that, rather than saying, have they done it perfectly, and trying to stop for that, or could they do it better, and stop for that. If you think they can do it better, then you come back to it later in the training session, and then ask 3 times again. But overall, what we're trying to do is train the sensitivity to the aid, the willingness of the aid, the cooperation, and their overall enjoyment of learning. And so I just have a couple of little rules for myself to keep myself in check, to make sure that this experience is as fun and positive for my horse as I can make it. So I hope that helped you understand a little bit more about where we're going with that rule of 3. And don't forget that if you have any questions, feel free to ask them or pop it into our Facebook group. We cover a few of the topics in there. And we're always looking to make the course better. So if it's relevant to lots of people, then I will add another video to the course to help explain. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later.